This video is sponsored by Alpha Draft, where you can play fantasy esports such as Counter-Strike Global Offensive. They had DreamHack London. They'll very likely have some of the upcoming tournaments. I know they had the major in the past. You make a team. They have different levels of tournament depending on how much money you want to pay to play. As a result, proportionate to that, depending on how well you do, you can win thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. They've given away millions. AlphaDraft.com if you want to play. There'll be a link in the description box below. So some big news, guys. Scream, the Belgian player who's playing for Kingwin Gamers 2 recently, has rejoined Titan, the team he was in 2014, going back to the VeryGames days, and he's replaced Maniac, the guy who came over in the French Shuffle. Let me think. I think it was in early September or late August, maybe, of 2014. Now, that's the key thing, is that it's not Scream joining a new team. He was previously in Titan, and then before that, VeryGames. He joined in 2013, of January of 2013. He replaced RPK, who retired, and he played in the team officially all the way up till, I think it was early September, I think it was, when he came out of the team, Smiths came out of the team, Smiths went over to LDLC, the French players from LDLC came over, Apex, Maniac, Kaylee, they joined Titan. NBK left Titan because he didn't like the way that the whole thing went down, and he went over to LDLC. LDLC made what ended up being the super team, sort of, for France. They won the major, they won a bunch of titles. Titan won DreamHack Stockholm. There's still a lot of top fours even when Kaylee got banned. Unfortunately for Scream, he's kind of left on the outside in the leftovers team, Epsilon. Didn't go so well, but he finally started picking up with Kingwin this year. But first and foremost, before we get into the serious analysis, let's just stop a second and realize that Scream, one of the most beloved fan favourite players of all time, the player who was in Titan VeryGames during the glory days, has rejoined Titan. Now, to me, I can't even think of it as Titan, mate. It's VeryGames. He's rejoined VeryGames. They've got Smiths, they've got RPK, they've got Shocks, they've got Existence. It's VeryGames, right? Smiths in, I guess it's Scream in VeryGames. VeryGames. 2013. The days are back, my boys. They're not really, because they don't have MPK, I guess, and he was like a central piece. But they've got a similar lineup. They've got like the end of the 2012 lineup. They've got most of the 2013 lineup. It was really good. The hype is back, boys. This is going to be fucking, you don't even know, mate. You don't even know. This is going to be, the potential at least, is so, it's palpable, so delicious. Even if it doesn't work out, just the hype alone is fucking amazing. It's Scream. I mean, listen, he hasn't been as sick as he used to be back in the day. But like I say, it's Scream. I mean, listen, my friends, you want me to tell you that you want to know about Scream? You want me to tell you a story? I'll tell to you the Scream. Back in the early days, he was, my friends, he was human headshot machine. You understand this? Headshot. Normal human is doing headshot. He is go, that's the best shot I can do. Ooh la la. You are like, very good shot, my friend. You are a good player. Scream is doing headshot. You are like, okay, Scream, what is next? I guess another headshot. He is like, no, 2 headshot. Pow. You are like, oh my god, he's machine. But this is thing. He has human headshot machine. Let me set scene for you, friend. Listen, you listen to me. I deliver. I paint picture, canvas. I pinch. He is coming to Dust 2. It's NIP, Ninjas in Pyjamas. You know this team? They are the best in the world. The best team of the world. Fuck this. Best team of all times. They have Premier du Monde. It's Get Right, Forest, Freiburg, Fifla. Let's not be silly. So it's Dust 2. Great map. Everyone's loving this map. Noobs is playing this map. Everyone is. Russians are buying. Do you have money for me? Can you drop? I'm good with op. Everyone is loving this map. Nip is loving this map. Scream is loving this map. All French, Belgian players loving this map. Tactics, no tactics, spinning headshot. You know what it's about. So it's Dust 2, it's NIP, it's Scream. It's long A. You know the long, what is it? C'est loin. The long A, long A. So the NIP players, they're up there, and Scream, he is coming up the catwalk, he is coming around the corner, he turning the corner, and on the long A is it's NIP player. Let's pick who you like. Freiburg. How about this? Freiburg is there. Freiburg is sitting, he sees someone coming. First thing he do, he take a seat. Listen, he is big guy. He need to take weight off his shoulders. He want to sit down, get comfortable, spray around. You put your hips into it, man. You lean back, you are spraying. So the gun is bucking. You are riding the back. Yeah, arriba. He's not Spanish, but I get confused, my friend. So Freiburg he is spraying minigun, Terminator 2. He is machine gun. Freiburg is there. Listen, he is a big guy. What can I tell you? I mean, it's like, would it hurt for you to use aim, my friend? Very much. What? You're a big guy. For you. He is Bane. He is king of Bane. This is Freiburg. Anyway, so Freiburg is spraying when he sees Scream come out. Scream, he is not doing this, my friend. He is walking out. He is left. He is moving out. He see Freiburg sit. He go, sitting duck. He pop out and he is pop up, headshot, pop up, headshot. Hey, maybe he doesn't get headshot. He is headshot machine. Machine is not always working correct. You call man, he fix machine. He says, fucked this part and this. Oh, sorry, I cannot work today. I come back on Monday. Then you pay me double, okay? So he is coming out, he's fixing machine. Sometimes the machine missed, okay? But here's the difference, okay? If he miss, he move. He is moving. He is move. He is pop up, move, pop up, boop. He is shift. He is moonwalking. Pop up, moonwalk, whoop, whoop. He is moving, he is shooting, he is moving, he is shooting. They are trying to spray. Move, stay still, bullet out, I cannot get on you. He is moving, he is shooting, he is headshotting them all. He is dancing. This is it, he is dancing, he is moving, he's dancing. They are sitting. Is it any wonder he is like fucking modeled? They are, Freiburg is cuddly guy. This is three, my friends. This is him. He is pop, pop, move, pop, 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 pop. Your favorite player, he is coming around corner, pop up, headshot, doesn't matter who he is a fucking name right hand corner, Scream, headshot machine. Next player is coming, pop up, another headshot, too easy for me, 1, 2, make it 3, why not, 1, 2, 3. He is popping them all out, he is fucking machine, you was understanding, human is doing headshot, he is doing headshot like machine, he is so fucking good with headshot, you may as well set up fucking conveyor belt, band transport hose. You set up conveyor belt. You are sending your favorite players. Premier de Monk, NIP round corner. Nip, Freiburg, Exist, Forest. They are all coming around corner. Is pop up, dance, pop up, moonwalk, that, pop a lock, that. He is headshotting them all. He is like machine. You should get fucking Chinese guy, China. You should get Chinese guy. Little guy is working 15 hours a day maintaining Scream headshot machine. Living in quarters in factory, because this is industrialized, factory level headshot machine. Okay, le copain. Okay. Anyway, I don't know how much time I filled doing that, but I think I'm doing a pretty good job. That pay me. So, okay, serious analysis. I didn't know how long I was going to do that for. So, okay, Scream in VeryGames. When he was in VeryGames, the basic history, because I'll do a separate video that's like a Who is Scream. I'll go in depth on his creative style. When he was in VeryGames, he joined after the RPK era, and that was when they'd made all finals. They had 4 finals in a row, they lost them all to Nip. Scream joins, he had all this hype around himself as this super sick highlight player from lesser teams, like Imaginary, etc. So he joins up, and initially people are like, wow, this is the move that could take them over the top, and then they've got more skill to match Nip. Actually, it goes worse for them. They're not making as many finals. If they win a tournament, it's only because it's like a small one that NIP didn't attend, or not as big a one, rather. They're moving on. Realistically, it's not until Shox joins, and that sort of puts everyone else in their rightful place, that they start to really overcome Nip and they start to win. And Nip, to a degree, slightly falls off. Not entirely, but somewhat they fall off a little bit. Other people get close to their level and adapt to their style. Now, as a player, even in the prime era of VeryGames, even this era for the last sort of 4 or so months, where they were the best team and they were winning the most tournaments, getting top 4s all the time, he still had his issues, actually, as a player, because the question with Scream, I don't think he ever figured out, and VeryGames himself never figured out how to use him, is should he be an aggressive player who uses that sick aim to go in, get the headshots and clear a sight out, open it up, or should he be the guy who's more of a lurker style and tries to win the 1v2 with his incredible aim? And I think he always wanted to go more to the passive side, and they needed him to go more to the aggressive side, and that's the issue. And so I've always felt like part of his problem was he'd be put in positions where he needed to be the second or third aggressive guy, and he wouldn't be quite aggressive enough, and he wouldn't quite catch the timing of when, if he was going long A on Dust, they were supposed to be coming in catwalk, and he'd sometimes fuck that up a bit. And they still were a good enough team, even with that flaw, because even great teams sometimes have flaws, that they could win and they could beat certain opponents, and they could be the best team, and one of the best teams of all time, in my top 5 of all time in terms of lineups. But part of this comes down to his style of play. His headshotting was so good, he almost was addicted to trying to aim, and he would move so as to aim. He didn't move to dodge and aim. he would move so as to aim, and that's the key difference, because it felt like he got too obsessed with that early burst tapping style and that ADAD, which he was the best at for a while, but it wasn't necessarily the most effective style. There's a reason why Get Right was the best player in the world. He didn't use the tapping bursting style. He actually just sprayed you down pretty much and used incredible spray aim. So the problem is, with everyone else in the team, they all fit to an extent. Now, I won't say Smith fit perfectly, but in terms of how well his relationship went with Existence to execute the tactic and build the base of VeryGames was built around NBK, Smiths, and Existence. They were the core. Then you had the stars. So how were they going to use Kenny early on? They had their issues. How are they using Scream? We're having problems fitting him in. Shox comes in. We give him some of more of his own room, becomes the best player. Okay, we've got him fitted. Then we only have to worry about Scream. He's the odd man out in this sense. As long as he can play decently well and we can get him to contribute, now we can still be the best team. That's part of the problem. I mean, I will say, during this era, he did have a couple of key maps, like against NIP particularly, where when they were overcoming NIP and reversing that matchup, he was really good on a couple of maps and did provide the firepower to help them get past. But he did have his problems later on. Like, he was one of the guys who had some problems in that major in the semi-final when, in many respects, on paper, we were expecting them to beat NIP, go to the final, win the major, and that would kind of seal, like, oh, it's the new era of CSGO, NIP's out the frame, it's the VeryGames going forwards into the new major era, and can NIP come back? That didn't happen. They lost to NIP, and actually NIP lost to Fnatic in the final. It really did trigger a weird new era, in as much as that wasn't the new great team, but that would be the seeds of the great team, like a year from now, in the next Fnatic, obviously. So, in a way, I think this is a really interesting story in as much as he's the only real outlier in terms of like a failure, I think, actually, from Existence's career. Not entirely, but the key thing about Existence as a great in-game leader is knowing how to use a piece and get the most out of it. I think in history, the in-game leader was the best at getting the most out of each player he's had. But Scream stands as a big outlier to that. Because, okay, Kenny S was the original one. Kenny S was a really good player, even in VeryGames, but didn't quite sync up somehow, and it couldn't quite be as effective in terms of impact frags. So he went away, he was in the wilderness for a long time, became very good. When he came back, though, when Shox left in early 2014, in like around May, or I think it was April, late April, then Existence started to base the team more around him, and then obviously when MBK and those guys left, he based it even more around him and put the whole game into him, and Kenny S became the best player in the whole world, and it went from being his big failure, like the son that he couldn't be a proper father to, and they got this amazing relationship, and they became a fantastic pair where they were in a team that didn't have that much skill, but they were challenging the best teams in the world and beating Fnatic, etc. Whereas Shox, obviously, has never looked as good as when he's been in the Titan VeryGames lineups. You look at other players, even Apex had an early period where he was very good with Titan. I admit, I think he was better in the LDLC days, in now and in the past. So the real one that stands out is Scream. He's the one where it never quite worked. In terms of Scream's incredible talent was never fully able to be unlocked and implemented by Existence. So can he do that now? I mean, what's interesting is, I actually, even with all the great things they accomplished in 2013, I used to muse to certain players. I remember saying this to Fiflerin in late 2014 when he'd quit being a player. Like, to me, I'd always thought if they could have somehow looked at the future, they would have said to RPK when he quit in early 2013, don't quit, man. Listen, what we're going to do is, we'll get rid of, let me think who it was going to be. I think it was going to be, if they'd have gotten rid of, because since Kenny S might have left anyway, since he was going to leave for Shox, and they don't say it, but there's something suspicious about the fact they've never played together. So if Kenny S had left at that point in time, maybe he had to go in the wilderness and become a better player. I could believe that storyline. If he was going to leave, instead, you could have said to him, right, instead we'll get Shox then. So we'll get Shox into the lineup at this point, and it'll be RPK, Shox, Smiths, MBK, Existence. I think that could have been a really godlike team. It could have taken over earlier than VeryGames did, because it took them the whole year to kind of figure out, well, 6 months or so, to really figure out what they were doing before they could really start to challenge NIP and actually beat them. So I always felt like Scream was kind of one of the mistakes in terms of picking him up, because I don't think they really understood how to use him, and they thought he was going to fit into their system, very tactical system, but it didn't. Now, you could let Shox have more free will, because he's a godlike player, and he's a mid-round, very clutch player, with an in-game IQ that's very high. Out of the game, well, let's not even talk about that, but in-game, very high in-game IQ. Whereas actually Scream in-game isn't really like that. He seems like a player who sometimes doesn't know what he's doing, he's a bit confused. That doesn't fit the Existence MO of how he wants his teams to play. You're supposed to know at all times, or be listening to his calls and just playing off what he does. It's got to be one of the two. You can't have autonomy if you yourself don't know what to do with the power that you're given in that sense. So, let's think about Titan before they got Scream now. The old Titan Kenny S lineup after the French Shuffle was really good it had like a really high ceiling. Probably would have only been the 4th or 5th best team reasonably, but had the high ceiling as we saw at DreamHack Stockholm and could do crazy against LDLC and Fnatic. The problem was the Kaylee ban happened, he was out, and then they were lacking talent the whole time. Kenny went crazy and made up for it for a little while, but then eventually he dropped off as well. He started off his issues, and the Nerf came in. Then you had Apex, who the whole time he was in that team was crazy in consistency and never could get like 4 good games in a row in terms of big games. So he never really could give them the firepower they needed to back up Kenny's great AWPing. They were still, in spite of all that, a very solid tactical team. They got by off that a lot. They really did rely on that like a crutch. That's why they got so many wins over Fnatic, a much more skilled team. They still had many top 4 finishes over the sort of 6 to 8 months or whatever they were playing in that sense. But they never could win the big tournament. That was the problem, because they didn't have quite enough in any respect. Now, Smiths and Shocks returned after the Envious back and forth with it. Kenny and Apex went over to Envious. Smiths and Shock came the other way to Titan. Problem is, as I kind of surmised when he was joining, this is really worrying in as much as it's been a while since Smiths, especially since the CZ nerf, has been any kind of player you could think of as like even approaching a big star, well, not even a big star, just a star level or an impact type player. It's not really that sort of player anymore. So it meant you were going to be in a situation where it's like, we've kind of got 1 star and 4 supports, and that doesn't work in CSGO really. It's worked very vaguely in sometimes in 1.6, and even then you were pushing it usually. But that's not going to work in CSGO, no matter how brilliant the team is. Shox has been doing his damn this. He's been having 30 frag games, 25 frag games. It's not enough sometimes against these top teams to get wins. Now, as I kind of mentioned in my article, Shox's World, this is just Shox's luck. He goes to this team, he's a 1 star with the 4 supports, it looks like everything's over. Envious has got the super now even better all-star god team with all the best players except him. It's like, well, come on, surely it's the over for Shox now. He's not going to have any success, he's not going to be competitive anymore. It's not going to be relevant, right? No. Now they get Scream. Now they get the perfect time to bring Scream back in. Because what's funny is, during the last Titan, the Apex Kenny one, people always said when they had these issues, oh, is it time to bring Scream in? And I always said no. And the reason was, because in theory you had enough fragging power, because Kenny was a god, and Apex, if he got his shit together and they put in the right roles, it felt like you could make him work enough. And then the others were supportive enough that you could execute the tactic and you had a chance, and you saw they were very competitive. Even at that Gfinity, I think it was Spring Masters 2, the one where they played Fnatic in the semis and they beat Fnatic on cash. Even there, they were able to win a map over the best team of all time, basically. So they were always able to be competitive. The problem is, bringing in Scream, yes, would have added a bit of firepower, but first of all, his impact wasn't so great. He hasn't never quite figured out how to make it an elite level impact level. He's always been an above average top pro, but as far as a star, yes, in terms of fragging sometimes, but in terms of star impact, he's often had his issues there. So I often felt like if you brought him into that Titan, yes, it would add a little bit of firepower, but it would take away from some of the tactical aspect, and you wouldn't have the same execution. So that was my worry. Now that they've only got the 4 supports and the 1 star, that's not an option anymore anyway. That's not going to possibly even win, even in a dream scenario. So now it's time to take a gamble. And since all the stars are over in Envious, now's the time where he's the next guy to get. It makes sense to get him now. He's Belgian as well. He comes along with Existence. They've known each other a long time. They've all known each other as friends a whole long time. Someone like Shox, I assume, will be quite open because he wants to get back to the top again. Now's when he's really motivated, believe it or not. That's what's crazy about people like Shox and Forrest. In theory, they get more motivated when things are going to shit and they're like, oh, I have to get my ass in gear now. Rather than when they're at the top, that's when they're just chilling. Yeah, he's good, yes. Just drinking fucking champagne and living like a rock star. But now's the time to bring him back in the team. So this is going to be fun to watch. Whether it works, who cares? It's a crazy experiment, though. And think of the potential of what could happen and the excitement factor that comes along with trying to see how it unfolds and what they can figure out. And can Existence right that wrong of the one player he kind of failed to really get a handle on, and can Scream adapt himself to playing within a team and maybe have authority in certain areas but be able to do what they say otherwise, because maybe he's learned from being in bad teams, like the problems that you get in that sense if you just try to play your own style, that you can't just be a fragger only. You have to understand some kind of concept of team play. So hopefully Existence builds most of the game around Scream and Shox, and the others, like true support players, facilitate that. And the base of the team should be RPK, Smiths and Existence, and then it should be Shox and Scream, a combo we've actually never seen in CSGO. Oh no, what am I talking about? Obviously we've seen it in VeryGames. I mean that what the overall team combo we haven't seen, because RPK obviously wasn't in the team that had Shox and Scream because Scream replaced him in early 2013 in VeryGames. So we haven't seen that combo. So it's going to be slightly different, but at the same time, they have all been in VeryGames, and so they all have a history with each other. So there is like an underlying level of, at least between most of the members, some team play concept, which I think can maybe speed it up a bit, because they'll understand each other. It's also a sick storyline now when they place Envious. Because, okay, Envious still has way better players and is obviously a much better team. But they've always gone close. Existence has always found a way to match up against Happy's teams. That's always been sexy as fuck. There's also the factor that if they can somehow do what the old Titan did and keep beating Fnatic, then you get that little triangle that Happy hates. Which is the idea that his team always lose the best of 3 to Fnatic. Yet this team that's lesser and has worse players and hasn't accomplished as much, Titan, yeah, he's totally right, always seems to somehow find a way to either beat or compete with Fnatic. How do they do it? He doesn't know how. That's the insight. I can't quite say this is too shit now, can you, mate? Interesting. So, curious, eh? So, I hope they can somehow base this around like an aggressive base with these players, have the support players feeding into what Shox and Scream do, have him be not a direct entry fragger necessarily, but some sort of role in that context. That's where we need to put his aim to use and make him the tip of the spear that they drive in tactically with Existence's tactics and that style they have. And I think it has the potential to be at least very interesting. I don't know how it'll work yet. I think they'll probably, if things go well, they can be like a 5th or 6th level team, and then let's see from there. Otherwise, I think reasonably they should be like settling into like a 7th or 8th level team, and then we'll see over the coming months how they figure out map pool and specific opponents. But who knows? Maybe if it goes absolutely crazy, maybe it's possible to be like the 4th best team. I'm not going to go further than that right now. I have to see something in the server. I have to see how it would work before I could speculate further than that. I think that's a reasonable scenario. So, pay me Alpha Draft. Thank you, you did. Now, other people, go to the link if you want to play Alpha Draft. If not, well then don't. Why are you still listening? Bye.